real for a second? Nobody talks about it. We all deal with it in one way or another in life, but nobody really talks about it. Nobody really prepares you for it. And so when it comes about, we really don't know what to do with it. What is it, you may ask? Well, that's what we're going to find out together. Come take a journey with me as we talk about the it nobody wants to talk about. This is As Quiet as It's Kept with your host, Jason Dante.
Hey, what's going on, good people? Welcome back to another episode of As Quiet as It's Kept. Once again, I'm your host, Jason Dante. So thankful that you all are tuning in and y'all rocking with me throughout this journey. It really, I say it every episode, but truly, it means a lot to me because it's no easy thing to go ahead and put yourself out on display and to share some of those inner thoughts and everything. And this is what I'm doing with this podcast. And so the fact that you all have been listening and commenting and signing up for the email newsletter and sharing and subscribing and doing all those kind of things, it really means a lot to me. So I don't take you all for granted. I love you so much. And let's keep rocking together. If you've been listening for a little bit, go ahead and subscribe. Make sure you tell a friend. Let's keep building together. Let's build community together. Let's keep talking about these topics. Because once again, why are we here? This is the podcast where we take quote unquote taboo topics and we talk about them in order to demystify, debunk, and give you the real so that you can live a free life. Once again, special thanks to our sponsor, Everyone Wins Together Productions. Their mission is to curate content for the creator and provide experiences in music, media, and live productions. So maybe you're like me. You're ready to step out and get your message out concerning your own podcast. Let's do it. Let's do it together. Let's win together. Reach out to me, Jason at EWTproductions.com, or feel free to DM us on any social media outlet at EWT, Everyone Wins Together, EWT Productions, at EWT Productions on all social platforms. Make sure you reach out to us. Let's get started on your podcast. Let's take your church ministry to the next level. Let's make sure we get some music for that wonderful piece of content that you have. Some custom music too. So for today and for today's topic, if you listened last week, we talked about the it of being a parent, and I already kind of alluded to what I was going to talk about this week. So I'm just gonna get right after it. I feel good. I got my dad shirt on. For the ones that are watching me, you can see it. You can't see it well, but you can kind of see it. So in like a circle, and this is also for my listeners as well. In a circle, it says the man, the myth, the legend, and then in the center of it, it says daddy. And so if you didn't catch last week's episode, all good. I'll catch you up to speed. We are talking about today we're still talking about parenting and everything that everybody didn't tell me about being a parent. But now we're going to take it a step further. We're going to hit the B side and we're going to talk about being a stay-at-home parent. Now, I know that that one is pretty niche, that listening, you may not be a stay-at-home parent, or maybe you didn't have a stay-at-home parent, or maybe you did. This one's is a little tricky, but this one's near and dear and close to my heart. And like I promised you all on the first episode, you're going to get the real me. It's going to be open, real, transparent. And so I want to talk about this because it is something that I'm going through right now. The being a stay-at-home parent. I did not know how challenging it was to be a stay-at-home parent. I am my mother. My mom was a stay-at-home parent. So it was nothing new to me to see my mom. Like, I'd go to school, come back, my mom would be there. So she was always just a great constant in my life. Yes, my dad was there too, but he was working and everything like that. He'd come home later, but mom was the constant. Always, would cook and clean and just take care of the home and everything like that. Of course, she's way more than just what she cooked and way more than what she cleaned and everything like that. My mom is so creative. And it just has such big vision for a lot of things that she does. But she was a stay at well, no, but and she was a stay at home parent, and so that was my first introduction into being a stay at home parent. I saw my mom. I watched her, and I was able to depend on her, and she was a great constant. Now, also, my mom is my mom. She's a woman. And so growing up, it was it was kind of patriarchal, societal, whatever you want to case, whatever you want to say it, however you want to put it together. It was just kind of the thing that growing up, more often than not, the men were the ones that would go off to work and provide. And if anybody was going to stay and take care of the kids, it would be the wife, the mom. And it's still pretty much like that's not a foreign concept that I'm giving you all. But it was just very much that was the context that I grew up in. That I saw my dad go to work. I saw my mom sacrifice and stay home to take care of the kids. That was the arrangement and the agreement that worked for them. And that's what I grew up on. And so in becoming my own family man and becoming a husband and a father and everything like that, I didn't think that my wife was gonna stay at home because we already had talked about it. That she's like, "Hey, babe, staying at home, that's not my thing. Like, I want to work." And so I'm like, "Hey, that's all cool in the game and everything." And so, um, that was fine. But I was definitely very much expecting that maybe we'd both be working, daycare would be in the picture, and it would be all good. And for the first year and a half, 2 years of my son's long life, he's only 3, that really was the case, that, for the most part, we took him to daycare, we both went to work and everything, and it was all good. If you remember last episode, last week, I talked about, one pivotal moment in my parenting where it was the morning that we're gonna take him to a specific daycare, and in taking them to this specific daycare, we decided the morning of, at the last moment, not to take them into it because we had to know and believe that that wasn't what was best for our son at the time. So from that moment, it was like January, February, right? And so from that moment, for the next like month or so, I was taking my son into work with me. Again, I had an amazing job that allowed me that freedom and that flexibility, and had such a great support system. I worked with some of the nicest women you would meet this side of the Mississippi, and they would even like go in and help me take care of this young boy. If I had to go do something I just couldn't really have a baby with, they would stay and watch him, and I really trusted and depended on them, for a large part of time during that time that I was bringing my son in to work with me. What I didn't know is that small decision ended up to be a consistent. So basically, what Lisette and I ended up deciding to do was that okay, I would work a more of a part-time schedule. So I would work like certain days like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and like Tuesdays and Thursdays I would be at home with Damien. And I'm kind of mixing some things up and everything, but ultimately that's the schedule that we started to end up on. And so me watching my son a couple days out of the week, like in the fully, what wasn't a surprise thing because especially the pandemic hit, and that's when it. I'm sorry, y'all. I'm really getting my dates all screwed up, especially because I was about to go to sleep, but then I was like, no, I need to record this episode. So here you go. You're getting the real me at the time that I'm doing this. It's close to like 10 o'clock. I'm usually in bed by like 8:45. Fight me. So, you know, I'm watching my son. He started going to daycare for a little bit. Then the pandemic hit. So now we're all home. I ended up getting laid off from my job. Lisette was still able to work from hers from home. And so from that, I had to be, we were both stay at home parents, but literally I had to be the stay at home parent because I wasn't the one that had income coming in at the time. And so, like, and it's a pandemic, there's nowhere to go. And so I had to take on the bulk of taking care of my son. Pandemic's still going. We ended up moving. Some other like life stuff happened and everything like that. Eventually, I am doing Ship, the grocery delivery service, and I'm doing that 3 days a week. And I'm watching my son on Tuesdays and Thursdays. That's where that comes into play, right? And so I'm watching them these days and everything. And I'm gonna start to wrap this up. I need you all to get all this context. So I'm watching him, 2 days out of the week and everything. Still something I'm kind of used to from the pandemic and everything. And then eventually we make the decision that we need to pull him from daycare, and it will be in his best interest if I now become the full time stay at home parent. Now, at the time that we did it, we thought some things differently were going to happen in life. And I thought I was really just going to be able to, like, I would just have to do it for a couple months. We are coming up on a year of me being a full time stay at home parent. And it has been a tough, stretching, challenging year for your boy for a multitude of reasons. My son is he's a great son and everything. Like he's really is a good kid, but he's also a kid and he's also still learning. Um, and it's just tough. It's a tough thing. And for my stay at home parents, I know you understand where I'm coming from because you love your kids. You love spending time with them. You love all the hugs and kisses and whatnot. But kids are also Sour Patch Kids. So like they're sour one moment, but then literally the next moment they're like the sweetest things that God has ever created. So it's such a balancing act, and it's just a lot mentally to take care of a kid full time. And so here's when it really gets tough, right? Because I am a man doing the full stay at home parent routine. And when people have seen me, because I try to be a very engaged father, and when people would see me, changing diapers or see him with a cute outfit or something like that, a lot of times, especially when he was an infant, a lot of times they would attribute it to my wife, like, "Oh man, mommy dressed you up so cute today," and I'm like, "No, I did." Because like no, I change diapers. I get babies dressed, I get them lotioned up, like, I'm a father, like, I do all those kind of things. This isn't just a role relegated to the woman or to my wife, like, I do this. Um, but it's just such a thing in our culture and in our context that, like, a lot of time when some people would see me with my son, they would give me the comment like, okay, I see you doing the Mr. Mom thing." And I know the people that said that, they mean well, and I hear their heart when they say it, but that Mr. Mom really got at my, confidence and self-esteem, to be honest, because it's like, 1, again, I take very much pride in taking care of my son. I laid in the bed, I made a son. I'm taking care of the son. Like it and so like this whole thing of like Mr. Mom suggests that like men can't be very active in their children's lives and active in taking care of them and changing them and giving their basic needs and everything like that. And I hate it because it's like no, I'm not some pitiful, helpless man that doesn't know how to change a diaper or don't know what to do when like he has a stuffy nose or anything like that. No, I'm a father. I'm his parent. No, I can make the decisions. No, I'm taking him to the doctor because mom's not available to take him to the doctor, and I just want to be there, to take him to the doctor. Like, what are we talking about? Yes, I know his doctor's names. Yes, I know the number to the doctors. Yes, I know when his doctor's appointment is. I'm the one that made it. I wrote it down. I put it in the schedule. So, like, this whole thing of like this pitiful man and like being Mr. Mom, honestly, I kind of low key, high key hate it because like I'm his father and I take great pride in taking care of my little boy. And so, but here's why it was also like tough on me too, is because again, what did I say earlier in this episode? That I was used to seeing my dad go off to work and my mom stay at home, be the stay at home parent. I was now taking on a role that I've seen primarily only women take on. And so now this is really challenging my identity as a man and what does it mean to be a man of the household? Because so often we're taught that um the man is the provider. The man's got to provide, especially in the church context. The man is the head and blah 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 and yibbity bibbity and all the ways that preachers have taken that text out of context in order to lord themselves over women. But it's like like I'm supposed to be the head of the household and supposed to be the provider and everything like that, and it's like I'm not bringing in much of anything because I'm staying at home making the sacrifice to take care of our son. And so, very much for guys, a lot of our identity is built on what we do and what we're able to provide, the results we're able to make happen. And I'm at home with it's the Mickey Mouse Clubhouse, da-da-da-da-da-da-da, Bluey. Like I'm at home with all of that, and so I'm not bringing in anything. And so because of that, it feels like I'm not providing anything. And so then it also feels like I'm not providing value for my family. And so that's really tough as a man to to go through because again, this whole context of mixed Mr. Mom, like it really has been difficult. And then on top of it, I'm trying to be active with him to make sure that my son doesn't just stay at home because I'm a hermit crab. Like I can literally be at home for days and literally not leave the house and be completely fine. For an energetic little boy, that's not gonna fly. And I just don't want to do that to him. And so, I'm finding library story times. I'm a part of like a little like men's accountability group. And so they can tell you there's been plenty of times I check in with a little video like, hey y'all, what's going on? Just me and my son, we're getting ready for story time, about to head to story time. A lot of people know that me and Damien, we hit libraries almost every week. And now we got like two libraries that we're doing for story time. Or maybe we're going to go to like a little trampoline park or just maybe go to the playground when the weather permits and stuff like that. And in all of those contexts, not rarely do you see a man of color. Rarely do you see a man in those contexts. And so I'm sitting in a lot of these story times and in these bounce places, the only man of color, a lot of times like the only man. And even more so, if there is a man there, more often than not, it's a man there with his daughter, not a man there with his son. And so I'm the only black dude with his son in the sea of white women and white men. And it just gets at you, man. That it's like all these women, all these stay at home parents who have decided to make this happen and everything like that. I'm counted among them, and I'm already having an issue seeing myself in the right way because I'm the stay-at-home parent. And so arguably being in that environment that I'm counted amongst all of these women as the stay-at-home parents and whatnot, I start to see myself as them. And so now I'm really questioning my identity as a man. Just giving y'all the real. And so that's been tough to work through. Then to add another layer to it, I'm doing this podcast. I have my business, trying to find time to work on the business and record episodes. Again, I said I was in bed and I got out of bed to record this specific episode tonight. Um, at the time that I'm recording this, it's those kind of sacrifices that you just have to make because I'm not going to be trying to do a whole bunch of work while I'm watching my son. Like he needs my attention, not all of it, but he needs a good amount of my attention because he's still growing and everything like that. And but still trying to balance this idea of I got to bring in money and I got to provide and everything like that. I got to provide value for the family, not realizing I'm providing value for the family. I'm taking care of one of the most precious things, if not the most precious thing that me and my wife has created together. I'm the main one in charge of that. But because I'm so blinded by my cultural context of a man's supposed to work, a man's supposed to provide, he's supposed to, bring in money and everything like that, I can't see the value that I'm bringing in to my own family. And so then with that, it's it has been easy for me to take for granted this time that I have with my son. And so here's so maybe you're like me. Whether you are a stay-at-home dad or you're a stay-at-home mom or a single parent, whatever the case may be, if you are a parent, you can understand it's always a trade-off, right? Like for the ones that stay at home, you get a lot of attention from the kids, but sometimes it feels like you're not really building anything outside of them. For the ones that have to go to work, you're going to work and you're providing for your families, but sometimes it feels like you're missing out on all these special moments with the kids. It's this trade off that you feel like you do, and it gets tough, y'all. Like it's no easy thing having a child and deciding to be parents and fully active, involved parents. But here's some things that I'm learning on this journey. My identity as a man isn't tied up into what I do. Bro, if you're listening to me, sir, if you're listening to me, your identity isn't tied up into what you do. You're not valuable just because of what you can produce. Man of God, you're more than that. And that's been a hard lesson that I've been trying to learn myself to know that I'm more than just what I produce. I'm more than just what I do. I don't do to be, I am, so I do. I don't do stuff to become anything, but I am who God has created me to be. And so, out of that knowledge and that confidence and that identity, I now then go and do things out of that being. But I'm not doing things to become. My doing isn't my identity. This podcast isn't my identity. Everyone Wins Together Productions LLC is not my identity. If God tells me tomorrow to shut it down, y'all will never hear from me again. Like, but high key, you won't hear from me again because I'm not going to get caught up in something that God has me doing now and calling that's my identity. Like we get so caught up in titles, men especially. We get so caught up in titles and position and prominence and everything like that, where especially if you're a believer, the most important title you can ever hold in your life is Son of God. It's not apostle, it's not teacher, it's not preacher, it's not CEO, it's not COO, it's not vice president of sales and marketing, it's not director, it's not anything of that. The most important title that you hold is son of God, a child of God. And too many times, we as men, we try to find our identity in our in our doing instead of just accepting who we are. You're not your job. You're not just even your calling. Because maybe you're called to do something in one season, but what if God calls you to do something else in the next? Take David, for example. One season, he was called to be a shepherd. The next, he was called to be a musician. The next, he was called to be a warrior. And then the next one, he was called to be a king. I maybe I missed a couple titles in there and everything like that. But the one thing, the very that's so good. The very first thing that we learn about David before we learn about any of all the titles that he had was that he was a man after God's own heart. And so, brother, man of God, that's what we need to be. Men after God's own heart. That's the most important thing. A title of husband, I love it. Title of father, I relish in it. Title of CEO, I'm trying to still wrap my mind around it, but I'm getting there. All those are cool, but the main thing I would ever want you to say about me is that, oh man, Jason, that's a man after God's own heart. And so in the same way, I encourage that to you, bro. You have to be a man after God's heart. Let that be your main title. And so that's something I've been learning. That's been something I've been having to deconstructing what it is to be a man and deconstructing this whole idea of being a provider. Because so often men, we take being a provider meaning just from a very financial um part, making sure that we provide enough finances in the house so that we can afford the things that we need, afford the things that we want, and provide stability for the home. Not understanding that, especially when we look back in Bible times, the men were the financial providers a lot of times because women weren't allowed to work in that context. And even when you look into like more of like Mother Nature and everything like that, it's a lot of times it's the female counterpart in those different species that are the ones that are doing the quote unquote providing. Who does the hunting when it comes into a pride of lions? It's the lionesses. Who teaches the ways to go and the paths and the directions that they need to take when it's time to go across the savannah or anything like that? In elephants, it's the matriarch that is the main focus of a whole group of elephants. It's the matriarch. Even even with like orcas and stuff, it's orcas because my son we like to watch Secrets of Whales on Disney Plus. It's a dope documentary. So even with orcas, right? It's the mother orcas that are teaching the young calves. This is how you hunt for food. This is how you provide. It's them. And so then, but we get to our context and we think, oh, the man has to provide financial, got to be the breadwinner, bring home the bacon, all that kind of stuff and everything. And we're missing our primary assignment that we're supposed to provide. The main thing that we're supposed to provide to our families is the example. The man is the head of his wife and his family, and God is the head of him. So we should really be the example, providing the example to our families of this is how you go after God, of this is how you make time for God. This is why it's so important that you pray, that you fast, that you read, that you have your spiritual disciplines, all to get to know the Father that much closer. And in them seeing you get after it, they're gonna get after it. And I've seen it in my own family when I'm in a really of a good flow of spending time with God and getting into his word and having good devotional time, I see it spill over to my wife. I see it spill over to my son. I see it spill over just into me because the way I interact with them is so much better. But I'm providing the example of, hey, this is what it looks like to go after God. This is what it looks like to love him. This is what it looks like to Make the time to spend with him so that you know him deeper and deeper and more and more. Brother, we are supposed to provide the example. And I'm sorry if this episode's a little more one sided to the men, but again, I'm talking about my context as far as being a man and a stay at home parent. Other stay at home parents and everything, God bless you. All the mothers that are doing it, God bless you. I see you, and I now have such a greater understanding of what you go through day in and day out. And I feel you, and you need to take some time for yourself because again, you're not just mom, you're not just wife. Woman of God, you're so much more than that. You're so much more deep and complex than that. And so, you being the deep, complex, creative being that God has made you, don't you dare limit yourself to just one of the titles that God has given you. You're more than that. Break out of that. Oh, I'm just a mom. I just a stay at home parent. Yes, it's a main thing. It's a big thing, but it's not the only thing. Because before you had the title of mom, you had a name. So, like, yes, yes, give to your children and do everything that you can, but they can't become your world in the sense that like it's just the children and there's no you left. No, that's not the goal. That's not God's will for your life. You can be a present bomb mom and have your own things going on. Like both are possible. But back to the men right quick. Um we are supposed to provide the example. And so that's been something that Holy Spirit has been tearing down in my heart and what I've been learning that, okay, it's not about how much I bring in. It's about how much am I showing the pathway for this family? How much am I leading them spiritually? How much am I leading them and providing the example to go after God, to really seek his face, to be a man after his own heart? That's what I provide for the family. And when I start to see that more, then I really start to see more the value of what I'm providing. Being a stay-at-home parent has taught me humility like never before. It's a very humbling thing to dedicate such a large portion of your time to a little wonderful, irrational, illogical, sweet, sour, won't eat their food kind of type kid. It it's a beautiful thing. It's a hard thing, but it's very humbling. It's very humbling that my day, consists of making sure that this little person has everything that they need and putting their needs before mine. Is very humbling, and there's no days off. There's no days off. I can't just be like, hey, I ain't doing it today or anything like that. No, always got to keep taking care of them. Always got to keep showing up and everything. It's a job that you're always on 24/7. So it's a lot, and it's humbling. It is very humbling. So I've definitely learned humility in being a stay-at-home parent. But I've also have learned the well, I don't know how to put it in a nice bow or anything like that. I ain't got it. But what I will say, the bond that my son and I have is undeniable. Like when you see us together, like I'm a very affectionate person, but my God, my son, I think maybe even more affectionate than me because say like if you pop over to our house at any point in time, more times out of 9 times out of 10, you're gonna see him on my lap or cuddled up on me, or even if he's on his tablet, he's gonna be making some kind of physical contact with me. Um, and it just it is what it is. Because like that's been my rollie. When we have to go groceries, we're going together. When we have to go anywhere, we're just rolling together and everything. Because again, mommy is holding us down and she's holding us down financially and making the sacrifice of going to work. And so we have just naturally have had a lot of time together. And at first it was really hard for me to see how valuable that was because again my perspective was off. I'm thinking I got to grind, I got to go get it, I got to provide and everything, not understanding the precious gift that God has given me with this time with my son, because not a lot of children get this kind of straight up time with their fathers all like that. It just doesn't happen that often. Yes, I have some wonderful memories and stuff with my dad, and my dad is very loving and very affectionate and everything too. But like, but it's like he wasn't staying at home the whole time or anything like that. Like, no, that wasn't happening. So the bond that me and my son have been growing over these past couple years is so special and it's so unique. And again, to all the stay-at-home parents out there, please recognize that and cherish it because it's such a special and wonderful thing. And it's rare. It's rare. And especially for like as much as you may sometimes wish you were the working parent, I 100% guarantee that the working parent wishes that they were in your shoes sometimes too. Because they see the bond. Like my wife sees how bonded me and Damien are. Like it's evident, and it's such a beautiful thing. And if I didn't get out of my head and get out of my warped perspective that I just have to grind and go and get it and get it and get it, I would really be missing out on some special moments, some special times that God has given me and my son to have together. So that then when things start to shift and, down the road, that daddy maybe has to travel a little bit more or has to work a little bit more here and there, our bond is solid enough to handle the changes. But in these very formative years, I got him, and it means the world, and I'm seeing that now. I'm learning that it means the world. So my message to the world, to I don't know what I was gonna say. Sorry, lost it again. This you I'm on like full parent like mode right now as far as like parent brain. Like I'm here, but I'm also thinking about my bed too. And so my message to the world, let's stop this whole Mr. Mom thing. There ain't no Mr. Mom. It's just she's the mom, I'm the dad. I'm here, I'm present. I do everything. The only thing I don't do is clip fingernails and stuff like that. I always been afraid even since he was an infant. That's like the one thing that I just won't do. And Lisette takes care of that, and I thank her so much for that. But everything else, yeah, everything else I do. I cook, I clean. Shoot, even today, at the time that I'm recording this, I made like this Philly steak. Y'all don't care, but like it ain't no more Mister Mom thing. It's just mom and good fathers who have stepped up and taken care of their kids because we get the criticality of it. For my man of God, you don't have to grind yourself to the ground. You are not what you do. You are already, and you are special and you are valuable. To my women stay at home parents and just to my women in general, you're not just mom, you're not just wife. You had a name before you had those titles. Make sure you treat yourself kindly and nicely, and don't get bogged down in just the title of mom or anything like that. You're more than that. That part is super important. And so be that, but don't stifle yourself to be just that. And that's about all I got this way, y'all. So thank you for just listening. Maybe this is more just helpful for me to just kind of like talk this out and everything and just talk about being a stay-at-home parent and everything and all the things that I've been learning. But I really and truly hope that this was helpful for you too, because I realize nobody really talks about what it really is like being a stay-at-home parent. Like what really goes through like mentally and emotionally, and the kind of toll that that can take, and the ups and the downs and all of it. It's a it's a tough thing, but it's a beautiful thing. If you are a stay-at-home parent, you're doing a great job. Look, hey, look at me or listen to me. Either bring your eyes real close if you're watching me, or bring your ear real close right now. You are doing a great job. You're doing a great job. So keep up the good work. Keep God first in all of it, and you're going to be all right. So again, if you love this content, if this speaks to you, make sure you like, share, subscribe, do all the things. There's a newsletter in every episode. Make sure you sign up for that. So I would love to connect with my listeners on a more deeper level. If you have any topics, any its that you want me to talk about, please let me know. I would love to bring them up and talk about them. We need to talk about these things. I'm not even going to say what's next week's going to be because I don't know. I have a couple ideas in mind. I have my plan, but we'll see if it changes or not. But at least for this episode, this has been as quiet as it's kept. I'll holler at y'all next time.